Okay, folks, this is the 2022 paper from January. It's the latest paper that we've got to use, and I'm going to just go through a quick walkthrough, almost like a walkie-talkie mock, like I've done with the other 2020 paper on here. So this paper starts off in the same way as the previous 2020 paper, and it's basically asking us to decide whether the devices are used for input or output. So a graphics tablet is an input device. A scanner is an input, a webcam is an input, and a printer, which is the one at the bottom there, is an output. Now, this question here, 1B, is very similar. It's asking for two different gaming devices that can be used for both input and output. Now, this is something that you can basically put down. So things like touch-sensitive screen or touch screen. Because a touchscreen can give it both an input and an output. You could also have something like gamer headphones with a microphone. Or if you said headset. Typically, a headset will always have a microphone and a obviously set of earphones as well. Now then, this next one, 2, is lovely. So what we have to do is state which letter is linked to the feature. So if we look at A is looking at www.jc.co.uk, so that is actually A. If we look at B, what is B? Well, is it a menu or search box? Well, it's not a search box, so it's a menu. So B is a menu, and then search box then is the one that's on the top, so that there would be C. Okay, what is meant by the term golden triangle? This hasn't come up for a while, but it's a lovely, lovely, lovely question. It's only worth 1 mark. In some of the earlier papers, it was worth 2. So this is basically where the search results are displayed. So this is where search results are displayed. Okay, what's the term a banner? So banners are essentially an area. Ooh, hang on, let me just erase that. Of a website which may contain text, images, and animations. Okay, let's have a look at the next one. What is a leaderboard? Okay, so a leaderboard is a banner which is always at the top of the web page. So this is a banner which is at the top of a web page. Okay. Give one potential problem in the use of music files on a website with respect to copyright and give one solution. Now then, this is important, right? So it's 2 marks, so they want to know about a problem and then obviously the solution. So the problem would be using the music without permission. So the music might have been used without permission. What's the solution? Well, the solution is to pay the royalties or ask the artist for permission, or you could use copyright-free music. So I'm going to go with ask the artist for permission to use the music track. Okay, next one. Give 2 advantages and 1 disadvantage. Now, if you look here, we want, these are important, right? So it's worth 3 marks in total, so you need to put 3 things. So the advantages of compressing files, obviously it's saying give. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm just going to write it as a plus. So this is the advantage here. It's faster to upload files to the website. Another plus would be it saves storage space. The downside, well, loss of quality is going to be the main one, right? This is actually quite a nice question because that could come up either on websites or it could come up in the imaging section as well. So if you look at the next one, 3 is a lovely question. So it's asking for ticking, different tools which are used. So a zoom would be a tool, links isn't, TIFF isn't because it's the type of image, force, no, range, no, distortion is, moving and cloning. Lovely, nice 4 easy marks there for you. Explain the differences between vector and bitmap. 3 marks for this one. Bitmaps, images are made of pixels. Vectors are made from lines and shapes. And then the last thing that I would typically do is vectors will use less storage as they have smaller file sizes. Okay, right, so that one there would answer most of that. Now, the only thing to bear in mind, right, this question does say explain. So what you need to do is in the exam, just put a little bit more of an explanation with these as well. I'm just doing this just as a quick example so you can kind of see the type of things that you could write down. 4. Many different techniques are used to design and create animations. What is meant by a storyboard? Right, a storyboard's a frame-by-frame plan. So a frame-by-frame plan. And then I would say show in sequences or show in key elements. Okay, what is clay motion? Now then, this I don't think has ever been in any of the other questions. They might have used this and referred to this one as stop motion in the past. Okay, so what is clay motion? It's the same type of thing as stop motion, kind of. So it's basically it's a mechanism where you would have clay figures and you'd adjust them. So clay figures would be adjusted small amounts photos would be taken and placed together as a video. Okay, so what's rotoscoping? Rotoscoping is where an image is drawn or traced to create a cartoon effect. An image is drawn, traced to give a cartoon effect. And then the last one there, look, what is keyframe animation? Well, keyframe is the start and end point, and the computer generates in between. So it is the start and end frame. The computer generates the in-between frames. Okay, next one. State the effect on the following animation. So what happens if we increase the frame rate to make it too fast? Well, if you make something too fast, it will blur the details. If you decrease it, what will happen is it'll start to get jittery. Right, and it'll start jumping and so forth. Okay, this is one of my favorite questions here because they give you some possible answers for this. So networks play an important part in organizations. Complete the sentences below using the terms provided only once. So a blank allows a LAN to be connected to a WAN. That's a gateway. And then a blank protocol connects a LAN to a local LAN, so local network to another local network. So this is going to be a bridge. And then packet blank is a method of data transmission. It's switching. Draw the diagram of a star network. Label 3 different hardware components. Now this is the same question that was in the 2020 paper. I hope it comes up in yours because it's a lovely question. So they're after 3 different hardware components. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put a PC. We'll have a printer. We could have a server. And then if you wanted to do one more, you could put a switch in or something like that. But you can see there, that there is a star network. We've got 2 PCs, a printer and a server. Give 2 advantages and disadvantages of a network. Right, okay, so these are important. And so with 4 marks, the trigger with this is it says give. So we don't need to sort of go into too much detail with this. But in the exam, if they give you a lot of lines, please just explain them. So on a network, you can share files or data and share hardware, e.g. a printer. Sometimes you sort of refer to that as a peripheral, right? So something outside. Now the downside always with the network is viruses. Now, don't get this confused. Whenever you have a virus, the way you combat it is with an antivirus, and hackers is a firewall. Okay. State what is meant by the following terms. Again, this was in the earlier paper, the 2020 paper. Okay, so what is an internet and what is an intranet? Okay, so there is a difference. So a internet is a global network of interconnected computers. And then a intranet is a closed private network. Okay, so next part. we have HCIs. Okay, so this type of human-computer interface or human-computer interaction is a command line. And what we've got is a lovely tick box. So a bank ATM, so one of the cash points, where users choose from a limited number of options. Now, if it's limited, graphics are never really limited, biometrics aren't, and menu-driven is typically that one there. You can access a secure area using a thumb or print. That will definitely be biometric. A computer in a classroom that has a keyboard and mouse. Typically, that would be a graphical user interface. Give one advantage of a touch-sensitive interface. Well, what we say is they're easy to use or they're user intuitive. I'm going to say it's very user intuitive. Right, and that means obviously it's easy to use. The user wouldn't need training on how to use it. Give 3 functions of an operating system. This hasn't come up for a while, right? So this might come up again. When we look at this, the computer manages hardware. So for example, if you plug in a USB stick or something like that to your computer, it will control and manage the hardware. It will boot up the computer. And it also manages security. Okay, next one. Data is often encoded. The color red is often encoded as R. Tick 2 of the boxes below to show which are the benefits of encoding data. Well, let's have a look. So the benefits of encoding data: file size is smaller. Well, yep, if we're only using R instead of the full word, it's going to be smaller. Is it slower to enter? Well, no, it's going to be much quicker. Is it improved security? Not really. And is it faster to enter data? It is. State what is meant by the term. Okay, so we've got validation and we've got verification. Now, bear in mind, these are worth 2 marks because we have to give one example and we've got to explain the term. So, first of all, validation. So, validation is basically checking to see if the data is reasonable. And an example of that could be a range check. To check to see if data is within a certain range. Now, the other one then, a verification, is checking that data matches. So, verification checks to see if data matches the source. So let's say, for example, now you've got a sign up form and it's asking for password. It may say re-enter your password here. So what it does then, it compares these two together to make sure they're a match. Okay, so as an example then, that would be entering an email address in twice or entering a password in twice. So what we would do for this one is say, for example, you could enter, that's what could, enter your password twice. Lovely. Okay, next part. You'll notice now the paper starts to change, so the questions become wordier, right? So we're nearly at the end of the paper. So autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars, are becoming very popular. Give 2 data capture methods. So it basically is asking, how do we capture data with a driverless car? right, or autonomous car. So what are we using to capture data? Describe how autonomous vehicles could have been impacted on individual and companies. Okie dokie. So methods here, you could have various different sensors, or you could have cameras, or you could have radar. Now I would go for a radar because obviously that's how it sort of distances yourself. So this method 1, how do we capture it? Radar. And then what I would say then for the next one is either a camera or a sensor. Okay, describe. Now then, this is a key trigger point here, right? So this says give. The one at the top here says give. This one here says describe, right? So we need to now give a description. So describe how autonomous vehicles could have impact on individuals, companies, and society. Very important with this question because it's worth 9 marks, right? You need to sort of break this down into 3 distinct areas. So when you're structuring this, you need to, in your mind, think of individuals, and then think of advantages and then disadvantages. You also then need to think of companies, and then again plus plus minus, and then society. Now bear in mind, I've said there 2 positives and 1 negative for each one. You don't have to do that. You could do 1 positive and 2 negatives. It depends on what you can remember. Now, I'm not going to write this because it'll take me way too long to do something like this with you. But there are examples of questions like this that are on Moodle that we've answered. And if you did want to try one of these questions out, please feel free to send one to your teacher, email your teacher, and they'll get back to you as well. So if you look at this just really quickly, things like society impacts or social impacts, there, because we're going to need less bus drivers, you will lose jobs there because obviously there's going to be less people around to drive. Also, you've got advantages there of the driver won't need to pay as much attention as potentially they would have in the past. But you've also then got other things as well, of the car sales may go down because obviously less people are needing cars. There may be less mechanics because you don't need them as services often, that sort of stuff. Okay, in terms of companies, right, we look at the economic impact. So if you think now with economic impact, more jobs will be created for various different people who don't have to live locally. So as an example, a company could put a job advert out and they could be based in London, but somebody in Scotland could decide to say, yeah, I'm actually going to go for that. That's obviously good. There's also another sort of issue there with companies where if there's less cars on the road, there are going to be sort of less accidents, which is a good thing. But obviously then there's going to be less repairs done to cars, which might be a bit of a bad thing as well. Think of haulage companies or companies that deliver. If we've got autonomous vehicles delivering, they're not going to need to pay as many people. So that then would be a benefit to companies because they make more money. In terms of individuals, with individuals, there's a number of issues there. So if you think with an individual, if they're driving around and their car crashes, who is at fault, right? Would drivers still need insurance, right? That may save them some money, but it could be a bit of a concern. And we're going to need sort of new laws as well made. The other thing as well is in terms of like ethical and moral impacts with this, should they be programmed to only work at certain times of the day? Could they be programmed to work at best at night, for example? Would people or would individuals be allowed to drive if they say not well or something like that? And would individuals be required to take more tests to ensure that their reactions are there. This is quite a nice question, but it's such a wide variety of answers that can be given to it. Obviously, you need to take this one step at a time, right? But if you want to answer it and then send it to me, fine, go for it. Okay, the last question on this one is with 9 marks, and it is going to be marked there QWC. Again, I'm not going to go through this one because this is quite a large question. It's not a very nice question, though, if I'm going to be perfectly honest, right? Because you're going to need to remember some of the acts on this one. However, the good thing with this question is it's only worth 9 marks, so it's just worth just over 10% of your exam. In the past, these questions have been worth up to 15 marks, right, which is a lot for this type of question. But if you look at this, it's asking about the Computer Misuse Act, the Investigatory Powers Act of 2016, and the Data Protection Act, or General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. So with the Computer Misuse Act, it's an offence to access data. So if we look at this one, it's an offence to access somebody's data without their permission. It's also it's an offence to deliberately plant a virus on somebody's computer, and it's also you're not allowed to deliberately delete somebody's data as well, right? And you're not allowed to deliberately access their account without permission. So in other words, hacking. The investigatory powers, which is this one here, this allows public bodies to carry out surveillance. It allows public bodies to prevent or detect crime and prevent and detect terrorism. The Data Protection Act, right, this one here, it basically makes sure that data is safe and secure, that is processed fairly and lawfully, and that is adequate, relevant, and not excessive, and that it is kept up to date, right? Now, if you were answering this type of question, you can probably get most of the marks from this one. So you'll be able to get about 3 or 4 marks maybe from this one, depending on how you answer it, okay? Just having a quick look at the marks here. No, I am incorrect with that one. The maximum mark you can get from each one is 3 marks. So that's 3, and that's 3, right? So you need to remember 3 Data Protection Act principles. You need to understand 3 different investigatory powers and 3 computer misuse. Now, I've never seen this question come up before as a last question. This is the first time it's come up. I can't guarantee it's not going to be in your next exam. However, it is quite a difficult question to answer. Likewise with payroll and so forth, they are both very difficult questions. So if you struggle with those, it may be worth you looking on Moodle at some of the help guides we've put in there for you.